what time it is? It's time for the Muckrakers with your hosts, Justin Luke and Cindy Phillips, where they talk about life, liberty, and hope.
Welcome back to Muckrakers. We have a fantastic episode for you today. As you know, Muckrakers digs through the muck to find the gold, and we get dirty.
We do.
And good news is, I think we found some really good stuff.
We did. Yes, absolutely. We have a special guest today. We have Sharon Craig, who is running for school board for Magnolia ISD. And I'm going to turn it over to Sharon to let her explain what she's doing and why she's doing it. And Sharon, welcome to the show.
Hey there. Okay, I'm running for Magnolia ISD School Board, Position 2. And I am my opponent. I'm going to say my opponent. The incumbent, whom I'm running against, is Sonia Ebel. And I ran last year, actually, and got 502 votes. And everyone was like, wow, you actually
fantastic.
got votes against an incumbent.
Yeah.
I said, yes. And so this year, I decided, oh my gosh, I don't know. We were working with Griffin and some other people that are, watching things. And I realized, my goodness, there's nobody challenging
The incumbent.
Sonia, the incumbent. I went, okay. Then the very last minute, I just went over. I was working early elections, went over and got signed in and filed 2 hours before the deadline, which was
Very
the 18th
good.
of February. And so I am the lone challenger to the incumbent for Position 2, Sonia Ebel. So you will see Debbie Crawford's name on the ballot, but she is not actually running. People just need to know that that's happening. And Debbie is throwing all of her support toward me,
Very good.
which I appreciate. And she and I have agreed on this and had this conversation.
So Sharon, what inspired you to want to run, whether it's last time, this time? What do you see wrong with the school district or the school system, and what do you bring to change that? What do you have to change?
Okay, well, to begin with, I'm a 36-year resident, May 2nd, of this school district.
Okay.
And both my daughters and my granddaughters attended Magnolia schools. I actually taught for 2 years. I'm a certified Spanish teacher, and I taught for 2 years at Magnolia High. That was before Magnolia West was there. And I have just seen things happen that really make me uncomfortable.
Okay.
And I've always wanted to run for school board. And this is like I happened to tell a certain friend of mine that I'd always wanted to run for school board. And he said, oh, Sharon, well, there are 2 positions open. That was last year. Week before, before that was in the fall before of 2020 now. And so I said, oh, okay. He said, well, I will call you and tell you when you go file. I said, okay, fine. I knew nothing. I was a total neophyte. Tell me. I will go do it. He called me and he says, time to go file. Well, what do I do? Where do I do? He told me exactly what to do. I went and I filed and I said, now what do I do? Then he met with me and said, ... and got me connected with some people that could help me. And I had the most amazing time. Now, last year was very different. There were only 2 incumbents running. And there was only one that was opposed, and I was running against Dr. Moffitt, who is a very, very nice man. I never had any issues with him. I don't even know him. I've never even met him personally. But I got 502 votes to his 860-something. People said, that never happens. I thought, well, that's cool. So even though I didn't win, I felt really happy about it, and I had a blast campaigning. At that time, where there were no little interviews like this. There was nothing. And all you would do is you would just go out and people would say, Sharon, you're running. Yes. Oh, you got my vote. Fine. I'd go out and meet people. I'd go to little community things and people would say, hey, Sharon's running. Let's help her. Let's support her. I had all these people going out and walking neighborhoods for me. And I had a little flyer that I put out. And I had a lot of people vote for me. And I was so excited. I've had them come back. Hey, I voted for you last year. I'm going to vote for you this year. I said, that's great because we need for me to win this year, more important even than last year because so many more things have come out about what is going on in this school district that I'm just found out some things just in the last couple of days that are so disturbing to me as a parent and as a teacher. And I've attended school board meetings and I was just astounded and flabbergasted at some of the things I saw, the lack of attention to listen to parents.
Yes.
And
So, real quick,
Yes.
I do want to say my wife was a teacher at one point in time.
yes,
And I'm not going to say which school district.
it's okay.
But I'll tell you what's interesting about that is, schools typically have PTAs. Well, the principal of that school did not want to have anything to do with PTA. As a matter of fact, they wanted to dissolve the PTA. These PTA meetings are very important. What the heck is going on? Is that across the board? Are you guys seeing that through, or gals seeing that through? Or
You know, I
Okay,
have not
Jesse,
investigated that, but I know Magnolia did have a PTO, parent teacher organization, at some point. Some of the schools, I believe it was at Williams Elementary when my grandchildren were there. But I was always working. I wasn't able to go to those meetings, but I don't think we even have one in Magnolia. I don't know of any of them in Magnolia ISD. That's just my personal knowledge. But there definitely has to be a presence of parents.
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And the parents and the teachers need to be able to communicate with each other. I mean, this is your child, and you're not involved, and you don't know what the teacher's doing, in
I
the
think
classroom or what's happening.
The question I have is,
Yes.
what's causing this shift? What's causing the idea of parents not being a part of the PTA or being part of the school system? Actually bringing their voices to light. I don't understand.
Well, who really does understand unless you dig deeply and see deeper, however, is that there has been a movement, a wave, whatever you want to call it, for many, many years. This is nothing new.
No, it's not.
This goes back to
Decades.
the 30s
Yes.
when John Dewey came in with all his Dewey Decimal System for libraries and all this other kind of stuff. One of the 45 goals of communism, you can go and look it up, folks, 45 goals of communism, you will read it and you'll go, wait, whoa. The last time I checked, which was a number of months ago, there were only 2 more for them to totally take us over. Now, people,
True.
the main key one is education.
Yes. That's
They've already taken over Columbia, Harvard, all these schools, way
yeah.
back in the 60s when all the what other stuff was going on with the hippies
Right,
and,
yep.
Oh, yeah.
and all this
Cultural
stuff.
revolution.
Cultural revolution, all of that, women's liberation and all of that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No, it's true.
Telling women that, you have to have a job, you
Yes.
have to work and all
Yeah.
this,
That's it.
or you're not worth anything, and
That's
making mothers,
Yes.
especially mothers, like unnecessary. And why would you want to be a mother? You need to
Yeah,
have a
exactly.
career and all that.
The government can raise your children.
The government, the thing is
the
they
education
actually, the government claims that they own your children. Excuse me, you do not.
Yeah.
They're my children.
That's right.
No one has a right to tell me
That's right.
how to raise my children.
Yeah.
I go by the Bible, and it tells you there's a little blueprint in there, a roadmap. This is how you raise your children.
Yeah,
and your
exactly.
children shall be taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace of your children.
That's right.
So that is what the Bible tells me. And so I follow the Bible and have, done that for years. Now, that doesn't mean everything is perfect, because when your child grows up and gets to have their majority or their teens or whatever, they're going to be making decisions for themselves. But remember, the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go. He or she, and I'm going to say he because King James says he.
That's right.
He should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So I have a couple of people in my family that I am praying that for. And
Absolutely.
that is what I'm holding on to. But you have to stand
Yes.
for what's right, and that would
right.
be the Bible.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And you hit it exactly. My husband and I were having this conversation the other day, just talking about
amazing.
reminiscing. You reminisce back to your childhood, and his mother and my mother were both very involved in the PTA. It was PTA back then. And his mother and my mother were both stay-at-home mothers. And it was becoming more and more during that time frame. Like you said,
Yes.
it's like it's that women's live movement, which, women, the importance, I guess, I like what Dr. Dobson says.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Jim Dobson. I've listened to him for years.
Yes, and he says there's no job more important than the job of a mother.
It
Oh,
is true.
mother,
And
it
is
is.
beyond
and
true.
that, just to minimize that and make you feel, I even was feeling that as I stayed home and chose to homeschool my children, I felt that I would look around and everybody I knew were working mothers, and I was like, maybe I'm missing out on something. So I actually even tried it for a little bit. That did not last very long. I want to say like 3 months.
You were not
And
missing
I
out on
said,
anything,
I'm not
Cindy.
missing anything, and I couldn't wait to get back home.
Well,
So
you
I'm
gain
just
more
saying,
wisdom. Is what it boils down
That's
to.
it.
The
And I
greatest part
realized
about that.
who is raising our children.
Yeah.
So what you see is that you remove the parent,
Yes.
either by putting the mothers out in the workforce, or things happen and the husband leaves the family. That
Yeah,
happened.
you're
And that
getting into
does
something
happen.
I wanted to get into.
Yes,
was the
you
fact-
did.
does.
The way that things are working out that I see is that everything's going against the family.
It is.
Oh,
Everything's trying to break
absolutely.
the-
That is the idea.
trying to break the family up.
break.
Yes.
Oh, honey, they've already almost destroyed the family unit. Now, what is a family unit?
Yeah.
It is a mother and a father. Whether they have adopted children,
absolutely.
whether they have stepchildren,
Right.
natural children, whatever. Whether it's surrogate mother and surrogate dad. Say, I know children that their parents died, were killed,
Right.
and the aunt and uncle came in and raised those children. I know those people
Yes.
personally years
Right.
ago. But it is a man and a woman
Yes.
who are married, and I'm going to say it. I don't care if anybody doesn't like it.
That's-
You can just go somewhere and
Yeah, well,
worry about it, because
Yeah.
I know what the Bible says.
that's it.
And they rear the children in the fear and admonition of God.
That's right.
But it's their responsibility given by God.
That's right.
And if I do not do that, I'm sinning against God. I'm sinning against my children. So I'm a firm believer in parental rights. It is your right to raise your child. Your child does not belong to the state.
Right.
Your child doesn't belong to the state of Texas or the federal government or anybody else or the global organization. It doesn't.
That's right.
Why would something that you create? I mean, it took 9 months to create it, right?
Oh, yes.
And it's this
Right.
phenomenal, fabulous, wonderful being. Why would you just hand that over to something that has no feelings,
Right.
has no spirit, has no... All they care about is numbers, really. If you really think about what a government is,
Yeah.
they have no feelings. They have
Right.
no morality.
Yeah.
And how do you... This is the other part. How do you govern morality? You can't.
Right.
So, and anyways, we're kind of going, we majorly squirreled here,
Yeah,
and
that's
I
all
kind of
right.
wanted to get back into the Magnolia ISD.
Get back to the thing, but
Absolutely.
you cannot take away the parents' right
Absolutely.
to be able to look at the curriculum their kids being taught.
That's right.
It is their right to know it. They need to know what's in the school library, and I've
That's
just been
right.
finding out, oh my gosh,
Yes,
so disturbing.
So much coming out.
The literal
Yes.
filth that's in Magnolia High School Library, Magnolia West Library. You can go
everywhere.
online and look it up, but especially because we're talking about
Yes.
our schools, and you should be, a parent should be able to, at EE,
Yeah.
the parent could come and sit in your class if they wanted to.
Yes. I think
They
that's
could
very
say,
important.
hey, the teacher has to have a relationship with the parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't,
Yeah.
there's no accountability. There must be accountability on the part of the parent. This is your child.
That's right.
Then you transfer that accountability. You transfer your child into the care of the school, specifically the teacher, the principals over that. But then it depends on what is above that, the school board.
Yeah.
And if there's anything amiss there, messed up, not the way it ought to be, guys, your child is not getting the education he or she needs, and you are left out of the loop as far as approving, disapproving, giving consent or permission for all kinds of stuff,
Oh, yeah.
which goes back to social emotional learning. You have no idea about. That's where I say I've way drawn the line way before that.
Oh, yeah.
That's
It's
good.
very interesting.
But you need to know it's out there, and it's in our school district. People ask me, "Is that really true?" I said, "Oh yes, it's true." I found out last year. I've learned more and more and more, and there's
Yeah.
more stuff going down. And now we know where it's really coming from, and that the current school board supports all of this bad stuff.
Now, social and emotional learning sounds okay, right? It sounds okay, but if you really dig down deep in what it really is trying to do, it trumps all the stuff that really actually makes sense, more natural stuff. It trumps I don't know. I guess the emotional learning that's going on it's not. I'm trying to say it's not really a natural progression. They're like forcing this onto you, and it's like, no, it's actually that's kind of against what is supposed to be taught. I don't know if that makes sense.
I don't know all the ins and outs of SEL. That's what the acronym SEL. However, Keith Grant did a great job of describing that. So in the episode before this one, all I know is as a classroom teacher, which I did for 10 years, interspersed 7 at one time, and you have to have an emotional connection. See your student, the student connects with the teacher, and then you can see that child and help that child learn and reach the highest level of education or whatever they're able to reach. But it's your job as a teacher to teach that child, not to listen to somebody telling you, oh, you gotta use this little paradigm and that little deal and put this little thing on it, and if it doesn't measure up, then the kid doesn't make it and the kid has to go to special ed or someplace. No, that's not the way it should be. And not the way. And so I taught at a place, a homeschool co-op, where a lot of the parents put their children in the homeschool co-op. I'm a Spanish teacher, okay? Not everyone can teach their kids Spanish. But all these children, so many of them were on the autism spectrum. And that is another thing that they've done to children through food and injections and all kinds of stuff. And if that's controversial, so be it. But it's true. And the children, my favorite ones, were the ones who were on the autism spectrum. If they were dyslexic, my husband's dyslexic. I shouldn't say that, but he is. He knows it. But anyway, and they're dysgraphic. They can't write, their brain can't tell their hand how to write. But I'd say, hey, you can type it in or do whatever. They did great, and I had students that made A's in my Spanish class that every time I asked them something, they had the answer, even before some of the children that were so-called normal and didn't have those learning disabilities. We call them learning challenges. I don't like to say disability. I don't want to call anybody, put a label on them. They were my students, and I loved them, and we had fun learning Spanish.
Yeah, we all have our challenges.
Yes.
And it just depends on
nobody's the same.
Where one person is challenged in one area, they're extremely strong in something else.
Right.
So,
what these systems want to do is they want to analyze who you are, what you are, put you in a box. I don't want anybody putting me in a box because I'm going to break out. Hello?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So students should not be put in a box.
No.
Don't categorize them. Let them be themselves, because as I had outside my classroom, and this goes back to something Oscar Wilde said way over 100 years ago, is that if there's more than two of you, one of you is unnecessary. You're a unique person.
That's right.
And be yourself, because all the other parts are taken.
Yeah. There you go.
So hello.
Yeah.
And I believe that 100%. So don't try to make cookie cutter people.
Yeah,
Don't.
exactly. And that's kind of what.
And you cannot cookie cutter. Oh well, we have to teach this. No.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I'm circling back to the idea of the government has no soul, has no emotion. They're all about numbers, which, in numbers perspective, we have a person here and a person here. They don't look at how the differences of that person.
It's totally depersonalized. They don't care.
So I think that's why it's incredibly important, such as yourself, to get into these positions, because you have to bring that type of logic and
it's just logical. Hello, excuse me.
Common sense. Yeah.
Common sense.
That's what I was thinking.
Common sense needs to come back to the school board.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is totally flown. It is gone.
Right.
This school board is, well, just to say, I'm running because there needs to be new blood.
Yeah.
There needs to be a change.
Absolutely.
And there needs to be a major transfusion. And this time we have an opportunity to replace 1, 2, 3 incumbents who need to be gone because they've been there too long. There you go.
And there is something to be said for that. I mean, we go back to, same thing with Convention of States, what we're about, which is the discussion of term limits in every level. And I'm not suggesting that we maybe have term limits for school board, but maybe it's not a bad idea. Just because I think after someone's been in long enough in a position, I think they start, they maybe
They
get
start
tunnel vision.
calcifying.
Or
calcifying.
Yeah,
That's my thing to
Is
say.
it tunnel vision, or where you get you just can't
Get comfortable.
you get comfortable and you really maybe can't see new perspectives. I'm not saying
Yeah.
every single one of them,
No.
but I do that.
Things
I get
change.
things
Yeah.
change, but when I get in a rut, I do that a lot with many other areas of my life where I get in a rut and I don't see, there's another way to do this.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
and so I think that you brought up a good point, is that just bringing in new blood a lot of times is bringing in fresh perspectives, bringing in new ideas and ideas that bring us back to, like you said, common sense.
Bring
ideas.
us back to teaching the basics. I said
The-
this
the
last
basics,
year.
that's exactly
okay,
right.
look, I was so blessed with my education, okay? I started going to Kincaid School in high sixth, okay? After my dad married, and we were in that, we went to Kincaid School. So I was in Kincaid School, high sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth grade, into high school. And I received Kincaid School, and hopefully they still do, has a classical school curriculum. They have a classical education. Let me tell you, they started, I didn't get there till sixth grade. In seventh grade, I started my Spanish, which I just loved. I took Latin for a couple of days and I thought, this is not for me. This is a dead language. No one speaks it anymore. So I said, I want Spanish, and loved it. And the other part is they start early language. They start teaching Spanish, French, German, whatever language that they offer in the third grade at Kincaid School.
Yeah.
Hopefully they still do. So I had the benefit of that wonderful time of learning. And something else that I was just reading up the other day, seventh grade, Miss, I'm going to mention her name because she's been in her grave a long time, Miss Gladys Little, never married, Texas history. Required one whole year of Miss Little with Texas history. It used to be, apparently it's changed, if you were even going to teach in this state, you had to have Texas history, period.
Yeah.
They have made some changes here. I'm sorry, that is wrong. We are still the Republic of Texas. I'm not going to get political on something else here, but this is our state. If you live here or if you have transplanted here, you need to realize and recognize Texas is a whole nother country. And we have our own Constitution that guarantees parents, guardians, and children their own rights with regard to education.
Right.
Yeah.
So hello, all of this is being trampled on, overridden by, and taken over by people you don't even know. And I'm telling you, you wouldn't want to know them.
Well,
and you find out who they are, and you're going to go, oh, wow, how did this person in some other country or some other state get here? It's because people on the school boards, I'm telling you, are falling down on the job, or they are not being educated, or they're not researching, or they're not finding out before they go, let's do it. And I'm telling you, some of these things that are now being taught in our school have never been voted on. There you go. I know that to be true.
Well, and I think it goes back to what you said a little while back, where you were alluding to, or you were talking about, and we can put the link up to it about
definitely. I know a bunch of links I'm going to be putting
links.
Wonderful. That's great. Put those links in there.
So the 45 goals for communism in America, and that was read into the Congressional Record. A lot of people didn't know this. I didn't know this. In I believe it was October of 1963. It was read in that long ago.
Yes.
And going back to, you have to know, it's important to know who you're up against, who your enemy is.
Absolutely.
And our enemy isn't each other.
No.
And when I say that, our enemy isn't even who's sitting on those school boards necessarily. The enemy is communism, Marxism. And that's what's driving a lot of this. What's driving is what I believe is what's driving. They want to indoctrinate, and they're using the schools to bring in these ideologies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
How many of us have said this? Gee, we just, you see young people coming up, not all, but you do see a lot of them coming up, they can't think for themselves.
No, they can't.
You give them a job to do, and they're like, well, tell me exactly what to do, because I can't think of how to, and it's like they don't teach them how to think, they're teaching them what to think.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, and that is the difference between indoctrination and education. You give a child, oh my gosh, because I'm linguistic, a little child can learn 5 languages simultaneously and never miss a beat. They're just, oh, hey, great, that happens.
They're sponges.
They are sponges, and they're brilliant, and they're wonderful. And to clamp down on that and not allow them to do that and tell them what to think instead of making a conversation talking about, well, gee, what do y'all think about such and such? And let their brains go, oh, well, hey, I think such and such, I think such and such, and have a conversation.
Yeah.
We used to do this in my Spanish class about different stuff.
Yeah.
And that was a Spanish class. And sometimes we get off topic, and I'd say, hey, well, what's happening? And someone's happening, and they had a question. I said, well, let's talk about it right there in my class. It was my classroom.
Right.
I had the freedom to do it. And so teachers really don't have that anymore. No. They are probably there are probably cameras in the classroom. I'm just telling you, I haven't taught in the high school for, last time I taught it was through 05. But you have so many things you're supposed to do, regulations, and somebody's popping in your classroom or telling you what to do or whatever. And you do not have the freedom to really teach.
Yeah, that's
as a
something
public school teacher, you do not have it.
Yeah, that's something I've been telling folks for a while now. Basically, like I said, my wife was a teacher, and I said, why can't teachers just teach? That's why they're educated in teaching and education, and that's why they have master's degrees and PhDs for teachers, is so that they can learn how to teach kids. But they're still not being given that flexibility.
I will tell you that
teach to the test is what they keep doing.
Teach to the test, and I brought that out in one of the things that one of those things I answered, and I said, come on, State Board of Education or Texas Education Agency, they dream up these TEKS. Used to be the TAX.
Yep.
Yes.
Then it was the
TOS.
TEKS. Then it was the TOS and all this stuff.
Yep.
What I know is, as a Spanish teacher, it didn't ever affect me because I was teaching Spanish. However, teachers were teaching, they're told, you have to teach to the TOX, to the TOS, so the kids can pass the test.
Yep.
So the state looks good to whoever's looking. But are you aware that the state of Texas, looking at all the states in this country, is rated almost near the bottom as far as educational literacy, that students graduating are not really going to be functional as they could be if they were not being taught the stuff the state wants you to know so you can pass a stupid test. Excuse me? No. You teach children. You give them information. You don't tell them how to think. You give them information. You give them true history. You give them true facts. And let them think their brain is going to work. God didn't give them a little... They're not all little robots. That they want us to be robots. They want children to be robots. They want everybody to be the same. Do you remember going back to, I think it was 1984. Has anyone looked at George Orwell lately? Hello. 1984. Groupthink.
Yeah.
Everybody's supposed to think the same. Everybody's supposed to look the same. Maybe this is why the school board, everybody votes unanimously on everything and has done it for years. There.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that needs to change.
Yeah, what's weird about that is 80s, early 90s, they were always talking about that. Hey, be careful of groupthink.
Yeah.
You know, ask questions.
Right.
And I think it's from 95 on that they switched it. They're like, don't ask questions. Line up. Go in a line. One at a time.
Right.
I just saw this is interesting because I was just last night on a certain app. I'm not going to mention it. And I was looking at a quote from George Smith Patton, General Patton, and he said something like, this is 1945, and he said, in 50 years, such and such is going to be going on. It's happening now. Starting, that was 1995. You just mentioned it.
Yeah, it's true.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Wow.
And It was true, and I don't remember the exact quote, but I could find it or give you a reference to it.
Yeah.
And he was right on the money, and I want you to know George S. Patton died in a very mysterious
Yes, he did.
way. He, I believe, was taken out because he was speaking out against what was happening way back then, people. So they were moving to take us over now, and I am not a conspiracy theorist. Hello? I know what I know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
And we
it's
are
happening in
that
front of us.
close to
Yeah.
being taken over.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to see it.
what's the difference between conspiracy theory and fact?
About 15 minutes.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of
About
what it
9
boils
months.
down to.
But yeah, I mean,
That's good.
In a lot of cases, it's getting quicker and quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Anyways, we're at the half hour. We want to give you the last word and letting our audience know what they can do to either A, support you, B, get involved, or C,
All of the above.
just all the above. Yeah. You got me.
okay, this is kind of off the cuff, or kind of on the fly, but remember, Magnolia ISD has public board meetings.
Yes.
Get yourself to a board meeting if you've never been. They're held at the event center usually, unless they announce it a different place.
Right.
I think it's the first Monday.
I believe it's the first Monday.
Usually the first Monday of the month, unless it is announced otherwise, and then that would be published on Magnolia ISD's website, which you can access. You can go to the meetings if you're there before 5:30 and sign up to speak. They give you 3 minutes to say something,
can get a lot in 3
you can
minutes.
get a lot in 3 minutes, or you can even have 10 people, and each one of them take 3 minutes, and each one of you
Yeah.
put part of what you want to say. Go to a school board meeting and you will see those people sitting up there. They are supposed to be listening to parents.
Yeah.
Parents last year before, my child had to wear a mask. My child is this and this and all these things happening. They sit there like it doesn't faze them. You need to go and see this for yourself. And then you're going to say, wait, I don't like this. This is wrong. They don't listen. They do not, number one, listen to parents. They take, this is when you're, oh, by the way, this is something that will need to change once we three are on there. We're going to have to vote it because I believe we are going to get, I believe we're going to get on, the three of us that are running, is that the order of business is they put all the stuff they've already voted on, they make an announcement. Then they start with all the frilly fluff stuff, which is, teacher of the month or student of the month. Not that this isn't something that's a good thing, but they put all of that before the business end of the school board meeting. And guess what happens? After
Everyone
all
leaves.
the little things have been done, the kids got this and we had this and this and this, and maybe a child will speak or they'll have a little song, whatever, depending on what they're doing that time. Then, guess what? Guess who gets up and leaves? All the parents, because the stuff they wanted to see or hear is over.
Yeah.
And all the parents leave, and then that's exactly what they want. They don't want you to hear what they are doing. They don't want you to hear the people standing up and saying what they need to say.
So bottom line is,
Yeah.
go there.
Go to
and
a school
witness
board
it.
meeting and be there early and speak if you can. And the other part would be,
Vote.
and go and vote. There's a school board meeting, guys.
School board
Early
election.
vote. It's school board election.
okay.
Sorry. Election day is May the 7th, which is a Tuesday. It ought to be in November with all the other elections, but it's not, so people realize there is a school board election May the 7th. Prior to that, starting on the 25th of April, is early voting.
That's
The
good.
best place to go vote, the most central, is the Event Center on 1488. But go and vote. Do not vote.
Yeah. that's
Double
important.
negative, which means do it.
Yes. That's
So,
right.
okay, I'm just saying that. And
Well,
can
we've got to go because
I
it's
know we
already
do.
at
I didn't get to
36.
say anything about my.
Well, we'll have to come back and do a follow up.
Yes.
Okay,
we only
that's
can
fine.
do. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
we can only
great.
do 30 minutes here.
Yeah.
So
Great.
But a follow up is definitely necessary.
Yes.
Absolutely necessary.
It's an
So-
ongoing conversation about this. because
Yes, so
It is.
Too important.
I'm gonna invite you.
Yeah.
She's gonna force you to come.
Yes.
You need to come back and do a follow up.
Yeah.
I would love to do a follow up. That's
Very
a
good.
follow up. Yes, that's great. Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for having me and for your
thank you.
time. And I was nervous about doing this, but all it is a conversation I've had evolved.
right.
I love to talk.
Good. Very good.
And I'm very opinionated about certain things.
we
Really?
need to
Yes.
be.
I would not have figured that one out. So, all right, well, we're signing off. Thank you so much. Justin Loop here.
Cindy Phillips.
Bye-bye.